Riley Freeman always wanted the shine. He dreamed of designer sneakers, diamond chains, and living like the rappers he admired. To him, money simply meant looking rich and not building anything real. He chased shortcuts, gambled on status, and ignored the discipline that wealth actually demands. On the surface, his story was quite entertaining. But beneath all the comedy was a clear warning. The path of clout often leads to debt, regret, and broken promises. If you're not careful, it turns into self-sabotage. And that's the journey we're diving into today. This video is about the financial traps Riley Freeman fell into, and why they're the same ones waiting for anyone who follows the same path. Before we break it down, hit that subscribe button now, so you don't miss the other lessons hiding inside even more shows and films like this one. Now, let's begin. The ultimate trap Riley always fell into was believing that every hustle automatically makes you a boss. One of the most iconic examples came in The Fundraiser. From season 3, Riley's school launched a chocolate bar drive to raise money for school programs. The idea was simple. Students sold candy, the school earned funds, and the kids walked away with small prizes as rewards. At first, Riley dismissed it. Why grind for candy or cheap toys? But then he noticed something. Granddad handed Jasmine Dubois money, not because he wanted chocolate, but just to support her. That's when Riley saw the real opportunity. People were giving away their money simply because they believed in helping, and Riley figured out a way to cash in on this. He created Young Reezy's Fundraising, his own version of the school fundraiser. But there was one major difference. None of the money was going to the school. It was all going straight into his pocket. At the beginning, it looked unstoppable. He recruited classmates, convinced them to ditch the school's official fundraiser, and funneled all their sales into his fake operation. The money came so quickly that Riley set up a base in a hotel suite, acting like a young Scarface living out his dream. But what he built was rotten at the core. Parents and neighbors gave money believing they were supporting education or charity, when in reality, they were funding Riley's ego trip. He tricked people into generosity and pocketed the rewards. That's theft in disguise. And it was only a matter of time before it blew up. When the official chocolate company caught on, Riley's scheme turned into a turf war. Enforcers showed up, threats escalated, and the fantasy of being a boss crumbled. What started as kids selling candy spiraled into mobsters, the FBI, and a hotel room shootout. By the end, Riley was running for his life, abandoned by his team, and broke once again. The lesson here is sharp. Riley mistook a quick hustle for real wealth, but worse, he built it on lies. The Boondocks used this episode to show that greed without honesty and discipline eats itself alive. In the real world, the same thing happens all the time. People inflate scams, fake charities, or pyramid schemes by pretending they're helping others, when in truth they're pocketing the money. At first, it feels unstoppable. The cash comes in fast, the illusion of success grows, and supporters believe they're part of something meaningful. But eventually, the truth catches up. Regulators step in, investors pull out, and the people left holding the bag are the ones who trusted the illusion. Not only does the trap cost you money, it also destroys trust, burns bridges, and leaves a reputation that can't be repaired. Riley's chocolate hustle showed that shortcuts built on lies don't create wealth. They create wreckage. But this wasn't the only time Riley's choices revealed his blind spots. In season 2, he fell into another trap, believing that talent alone could carry him into greatness. Ballin', the 8th episode of the season, placed him on a basketball court, but the game he played had little to do with hoops and everything to do with his obsession with image. The episode began with Riley's dream. In his head, he was already an NBA superstar, dunking on Shaq, outscoring Kobe, and getting paid a $3 gazillion contract. He pictured endorsement deals, headlines, and respect. The problem was, none of it was earned. It was a fantasy where he skipped past the grind and landed straight in the glory. That mindset carried into real life the moment Tom Dubois invited him to join the Woodcrest Mighty Deers. At that moment, Riley didn't see a chance to learn basketball. He saw a stage to build his brand. From the start, he treated the team like a business deal. He showed up in a suit, demanded a contract, changed the team name to the Ballaholics, and even redesigned the jerseys to fit his style. On the surface, it looked like confidence. In reality, it was arrogance. Riley thought the image of being a star mattered more than actually learning the game. He could dribble, he could showboat, but he refused to practice shooting, passing, or teamwork, which led to the Ballaholics losing their first game. Even when Riley began improving, the same pattern returned. The moment he saw success, he abandoned discipline and started hogging the ball. Showboating became more important than winning. His ego cost the team another close game, and when he finally faced real competition, he fell apart. Cindy McPherson taunted him into mistakes, and later, an autistic player named Billy Matthews lit him up with perfect three-pointers. The episode ended with Riley humiliated, watching Billy's miracle game turn into $1 million movie deal, while his own role was reduced to that of a clumsy villain. The financial trap here mirrors the athletic one. Riley believed hype was enough to build success. He treated basketball like a business empire, without ever putting in the work to back it up. It's the same mistake people make when they chase spotlight over substance, pouring everything into how they look instead of what they can do. Ballin showed that no matter how much you dress up failure with image, the scoreboard tells the truth. And just like with money, talent without discipline always gets overshadowed by those who actually put in the work. Riley's fascination with money and fame didn't actually begin with his own schemes. It began with the people he idolized. The story of Thugnificent, the 5th episode of Season 2, brought one of those role models right to his front yard. Thugnificent, a rapper at the height of his fame, moved into a mansion across the street from the Freemans. He didn't arrive quietly. His entrance was an ostentatious display. Luxury cars in a caravan, his crew lethal interjection at his side, champagne sprayed over the crowd, and cash thrown like confetti. The neighbors welcomed him with cheers, and Riley's eyes lit up. To him, this was proof that the lifestyle he dreamed about was actually real. But the episode showed something Riley refused to see. In reality, Thugnificent's fortune was built on image more than stability. He immediately began pouring money into loud, unnecessary displays. The mansion was remodeled with tacky, self-indulgent architecture. Parties shook the neighborhood night after night, wrecking lawns and leaving chaos in their wake. When Granddad filed a complaint about the noise, Thugnificent escalated instead of resolving it, spending more money on a diss track and music video called F Granddad. It went viral, pulling attention for a moment, but only at the cost of more wasted resources. Every dollar went into proving he was still relevant. Riley looked at this spectacle and saw a blueprint for success. But in truth, it was a financial trap. Spending for attention means burning wealth instead of protecting it. What Riley admired most was the clout. He wanted to live the way Thugnificent lived, loud, bold, and untouchable. But the show made it clear how fragile that approach really was. The beef with Granddad spun out of control, even inspiring teens to attack elderly people who resembled him. The spotlight that Riley believed was a sign of power also carried consequences and made Thugnificent look foolish. When your identity is built on excess, your entire worth depends on keeping the spectacle alive. The moment you slow down, the moment the noise fades, the money runs out. Riley didn't see the danger. He thought looking rich was the same as being rich. The lesson from this episode was unmistakable. Idolizing figures like Thugnificent leads to inheriting their worst habits. Riley absorbed the idea that fame and wealth were inseparable, but he didn't see the long-term consequences. Here, the Boondocks revealed the truth hidden behind celebrity shine. Without discipline, fortune evaporates, leaving behind debt, frustration, and broken illusions. But the story of Riley's obsession with image already came into full view in The Story of Gangstalicious, the 6th episode of Season 1. It begins with Riley and Huey watching a documentary about Gangstalicious, narrated by Sway Calloway. The film details the rapper's feud with Eat Dirt, full of nightclub fights and reckless bravado that left both men shot in their own crossfire. To Huey, it's a sad cycle of ignorance. To Riley, it's proof of greatness. He hangs on every word, convinced that Gangstalicious' toughness and fame make him the ultimate role model. Then breaking news interrupts the documentary. Gangstalicious has been shot again, this time during a concert in Woodcrest. The irony is heavy. He was performing a song called I Got Shot. At the exact moment, bullets tore through the stage. For Huey and Granddad, it's another example of how empty and destructive this culture of violence really is. But Riley doesn't see it that way. He insists Gangstalicious needs his street soldiers, placing himself in that role. To him, visiting the hospital is simply loyalty to a hero he believes embodies the lifestyle he dreams of. Granddad refuses, sensing obvious danger. But Riley won't quit. He fakes injuries, causes trouble, and finally tricks his way into freedom, riding his bike straight to the hospital. But when he finally meets Gangstalicious, reality begins to unravel. The rapper is anxious, sweating, constantly on edge. There are no armed guards or security details, just a frightened man in a hospital gown. Riley offers protection, but he's quickly pulled into the chaos when 3 armed men arrive, looking for Gangstalicious. The escape that follows shatters Riley's fantasy. As they run, Gangstalicious drops his gun and flees, leaving Riley stunned. The rapper Riley thought was fearless is terrified, incapable of living up to the image he built. Riley clings to excuses. Maybe it's strategy, maybe Gangstalicious has something planned. But the truth grows clearer with every step. Even when Riley suggests using a private jet to escape, Gangstalicious admits it was only rented. The glamour Riley admired, the jets, the lifestyle, the aura of power, was simply borrowed. The collapse continues when Gangstalicious finally admits that his career was shaped by pretending. He idolized gangster rappers, so he copied their style, their bravado, and their violence until the act became his entire identity. For a while it worked. He gained fame, admiration, and money. But pretending has consequences. Now the violence he glorified circles back to consume him. For Riley, this admission is devastating. He believed Gangstalicious's wealth and toughness were proof of success. Instead, they were an expensive illusion that required constant spending and constant fear to maintain. The financial trap here is powerful. Gangstalicious built his entire brand on image, on luxuries he didn't own, toughness he couldn't back up, and fame that demanded he keep performing the lie. That kind of career burns money instead of building it. The private jets, designer clothes, and gun-toting persona were actually liabilities, sucking resources just to keep the act alive. Fans like Riley bought into the performance, mistaking it for reality. But performances don't last forever. When the mask slips, both the artist and the admirers are left with nothing. By the end, Riley can't handle the truth. He exaggerates his role in the story, telling Huey he fought off attackers. And he dismisses Gangstalicious's confession as part of a dream. He chooses the fantasy over reality, because admitting the truth means admitting that the version of success he worships is hollow. And that's the deepest financial trap of all. The refusal to let go of illusions, even when they've already broken apart. When you refuse to face reality, you keep investing time, money, and loyalty into something that will never pay you back. Riley's denial shows how easy it is to keep pouring belief into an image, even while it drains you dry. In real life, this looks like people throwing cash at failing businesses because they can't admit the idea was flawed, or clinging to brands and lifestyles they can't afford because it keeps up an appearance. It's the same with get-rich-quick schemes or bad investments. Once someone is emotionally attached, they'd rather keep losing than face the embarrassment of walking away. The trap isn't just financial, it's psychological. Pride and denial lock people into a cycle where the more they lose, the more determined they are to prove they were right. That's why illusions are so expensive. They demand constant payment until nothing is left. Riley Freeman's story across all these episodes we just talked about is bigger than comedy. Each scheme, each idol, each dream of fast money carried the same flaw. There was no proper foundation. Whether it was chocolate bars, basketball, or celebrity role models, he chased the shallow surface while ignoring the work, integrity, honesty, and discipline it actually takes to build lasting wealth. That's why his hustles collapsed. The Boondocks used Riley as a mirror, showing us how greed, arrogance, and blind loyalty to illusions will always eat themselves alive. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown of the lessons hiding in your favorite shows. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.